Okay, now we're going to talk about the model and solving it by hand. In our previous part, we learned about decision variables. X1 is the number of product 1 to make, and X2 is the number of product 2 to make. Our max profit is 20X1 plus 30X2, and our constraints, X1 plus 2X2 is less than or equal to 14, 4X1 plus 3X2 less than or equal to 36, X1 and X2 greater than or equal to 0. First, we're going to find the values of X1 and X2 that would make the constraints true. For example, X1 and X2 cannot be 5 and 7, because if you put in 5 for X1 and 7 for X2, then 5 plus 14 is not less than or equal to 14. So we have to find the feasible values. To do that, we graph each inequality from the constraints. Okay, on the left, we have 1x1 plus 2x2 equals 14. x1 equals 0 when you plug in. When you plug in x1 is 0, we get 2x2 equals 14, so x2 equals 7. So 1 point on that line is 0, 7. On the right side, we're going to plug in x2 equals 0. When we do that, we get x1 equals 14. So a second point on that line is 14, 0. Now our second constraint, we're going to do the same thing. On the left side, x1 equals 0. Plug that in. We get 3x2 equals 36. Divide, we get x2 equals 12. So 0, 12. On the right side, we'll plug in x2 equals 0. So we get 4x1 equals 36. Divide by 4, we get x1 equals 9. So the second point on that line is 9, 0. Okay, so now for the labor constraint, we have 0, 7, which is over 0, up 7. We have 14, 0, which is right 14, up 0. Okay, for the cloth constraint, the second constraint, I'm going to do this one in blue. 0, 12 means over 0, up 12. And 9, 0 means over 9, up 0. Okay, forgot to draw the first graph or slide. Okay, so in yellow, I'm going to shade less than or equal to. That didn't turn out very well. I'm going to shade less than for the labor constraint, okay, which is the line in black. So less than means we're going to shade below. So we're going to shade everything below the line drawn in black pen. Okay, in green, I'm going to shade everything below the blue line. Okay, so everything below the blue line. Gets shaded here. Okay, so we have to have our labor constraint and our cloth constraint met, which means it's got to be both lines. Okay, it's got to be shaded below both lines, the stuff that was shaded twice, because the stuff below the stuff shaded are things that meet both constraints, meaning if you put in x1 and x2, the labor constraint won't go over the labor and we won't go over the cloth. So what is shaded in both? What's shaded in both would be this section right here. That is shaded twice. So that means anything in that area will meet the labor constraint and the cloth constraint. Okay, you've got to meet both constraints, meaning you can't go over on labor, you can't go over on cloth. Okay, now we want to find where the two lines cross or intersect. We're trying to find this point right here, where the blue line and the black line cross. Okay, and where they cross is when you solve a system of equations. So we're going to solve our system of equations, and we're going to do that with the elimination method. Okay, so if I look at x1, I have 1, and then I have 4. So if I multiply the first equation by -4, I'll get -4x1, which would cancel with the 4x1 in the second equation. Okay, so I'm going to multiply that first equation by -4, which gives me -4x1 minus 8x2 equals -56. Okay, then I rewrite that second equation. Now I add the two equations together. I get -5x2 equals -20. Divide, I get x2 equals 4. Okay, now go back and plug in 4 for x2. So 2 times 4 is 8. x1 plus 8 equals 14. Minus 8, I get x1 equals 6. Okay, so what is my point? x1 is 6 and x2 is 4. Okay, the corner points, the 3 corner points of the shaded area. Okay, so this is a corner point at 0, 7. The intersection point is a corner point of the shaded. And this is also a corner point here at 9, 0. Okay. Now we plug in those 3 into the profit and see which one has the highest profit. So put in 0 and 7 and you get 210. Plug in 6 and 4, you get 240. Plug in 9 and 0, you get 180. Okay. The 3 points that you choose must be touching the shaded area. Okay, what is that shaded area? That green area right there represents this area that's shaded below both lines. Okay, this little orange area right here. Okay, is this area that was shaded below both lines. Okay, so now that tells us that $240 is our maximum profit, and that's when X1 is 6 and X2 is 4. So make 6 of product 1 and 4 of product 2. And that is the end of this lesson.